We are here live at the Sands Space History Center, and there is so much things that I had even no clue about. We got two great gentlemen here. We got James Draper and John Hilliard, who have so much vast knowledge. They're going to school you guys about the Space Center here. And we're actually right next to SpaceX. I didn't even know that. I drove here, was like, what? So prepare yourselves for a great episode today. We are here at one of the great hidden gems of the Space Coast. So welcome to 321 Liftoff.
Three, two, one, liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome to 321 Liftoff. I'm Wayne Belden, the president of Belden Communications, the publisher of the Space Coast Fun Guide and SpaceCoastFunGuide.com. We'll be bringing you 321 Liftoff each week, talking about tourism on Florida's fabulous Space Coast. With me is the host of 321 Liftoff, Bonnie King, former Deputy Director of the Space Coast Office of Tourism, as well as the past President of the Florida Film Commission. Bonnie, are we ready to blast off on 321 Liftoff?
Yes,
Hey-o.
we are. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Hey, and you know what? Today we are surrounded by space history right here at the Sands Space History Center, located right here in Port Canaveral. And joining our tourism conversation today is going to be James Draper, and he's the museum director of the Air Force Space and Missile Museum, of which the Sands Space History Center is one of their facilities. And John Hilliard, who's a museum volunteer who has a wealth of information and some great stories about the early days of space exploration. As you all know, 321 Liftoff is brought to you by the Beachside Hotel and Suites on Cocoa Beach, offering a great overnight vacation destination when you plan to visit our Florida Space Coast, and by Longboards Restaurant and Tiki Bar, located at the Hilton Oceanfront on Cocoa Beach, offering a great ambiance of great food and drink, and of course by the SpaceCoastFunGuide.com, where you will learn and what there is to see and do on the fabulous area of Florida Space Coast. And joining me is my fabulous co-host, John Belden.
Good morning, and our producer there, Phil Bird. How you doing there, Phil?
What's going on, everybody? How you doing? Hey, like I mentioned before in the intro, we are literally right outside of SpaceX, and I'll be honest with you guys. I thought I was getting lost. I was like, oh no, the military is gonna stop me.
Yeah.
They're gonna frisk me.
It's
I
gonna be a
thought
while.
I'd surprise you. I
What
thought
is
I'd
going on?
surprise you.
Yeah. And what's really cool is that Elon Musk, he does all this stuff. He's working hard with NASA to help land the first astronauts on the lunar surface since the Apollo program. But that's a whole nother podcast. So I do
We'll
want to
get to
introduce
that.
you to my homie. He is my homie. He's a good friend of mine. John Belden, the Vice President of Belden Communications.
What up, buddy? How you doing there, man? Listen, the fact of the matter is there are so many unforgettable moments in the history of spaceflight. The first satellite in space, first man in space, lunar landing, and man's first walk on the moon, the launch of the Hubble Space Telescope. I mean, I can sit here probably for days and days. All this history right here on Florida Space Coast. That's the coolest part. It's right in our backyard. From the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex to the American Space Museum and Walk of Fame in Titusville to right here at the Sands Space History Center. So I'm very excited to learn what everything you guys have here. This is awesome.
Yes, and here is the place where we can see how far the technological advances have happened right here and has brought us to this location right now. Look how far we have come. So let's welcome our guests today, Jamie and John. We got the J's today. Jamie, John.
That's it.
John.
We're getting some
Yes.
respect around here finally.
I'm telling you. So welcome, you guys. And what we'd like to do is just get a little background on both of you, maybe, and then we'll talk about the History Center. But Jamie, maybe you could give us some background on you, how you got involved, and just give us a little info. That'd be great.
Sure. Well, thank you for coming here and,
Absolutely.
and highlighting this hidden gem.
It's a great location. It is a hidden gem.
And welcome to Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. We are just outside the gate, so this is our publicly accessible location.
Those are sharp shirts, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. We're now a part of Space Force, even though we're still in the Air Force Heritage Program. Air Force and Space Force work together. And my background is I'm a lifelong student of history. I'm a museum person. I eat, breathe, sleep museums, and that's why they brought me here, was to
awesome.
help highlight this hidden gem and bring it out to the public and make it more accessible and bring these stories out. So my one sentence pitch for the scope of the history that we present here is over 8,000 launches from 30-plus historic pads since 1950 on the world's largest shooting gallery, the 10,000-mile Eastern Range. So sometimes those numbers are daunting, but sometimes that's the story. The story are the numbers, and the numbers are amazing here. And that's what drew me here. I came here 2 years ago with no aerospace background whatsoever.
Wow.
So I'm absorbing everything I can from our core base of support, which are our museum volunteers. And that's where John Hilliard comes to play. He is a wealth of knowledge.
I had to talk with him just for a couple of minutes before we started. And that's exactly what the term that was in my mind, a wealth of knowledge. And he'll go into more. He's got some books with some photography, and this man has seen a lot and been a lot of places, and I'm very jealous of that. So
John, you said books. You mean like he has encyclopedias?
man, he does. You're right. Books doesn't do it justice. He's got bookshelves full of
Yes.
encyclopedias.
He showed some pictures of his what he has in his house, and you're like, what?
So
What is that?
it's an honor to sit with you.
Wow, this is great.
We are not worthy.
And he has it in physical binder form,
Yep.
in digital form, and a lot of it right up here. I mean, this guy.
He was on the front page of the New York Times. I mean, come on.
Say what?
Yep, above the fold, I'm pretty sure, too. That's pretty impressive.
Wow.
And you were on the New York Times because of
Well, I was first military dependent to go to Germany in 1946.
Wow, man.
So I went to my aunt, took my mother, my sister, and I to LaGuardia to get on the Constellation, Pan American Constellation, to fly to Frankfurt, Germany.
Wow.
And we're sitting there, and two guys came up and said, "Can we borrow your son?" My mother was scared to death because she's getting ready to fly across the ocean.
We'll come
She
back.
was nervous. My aunt said, "Yeah, go ahead."
Oh, yeah, sure, no
So they
problem.
grabbed me and took me up on the plane, put a headset on me, and took some pictures.
Neat.
And that's how the picture became front page of the New York Times as being the first military dependent groups to go to Germany.
That's
in
awesome.
46.
very
That's awesome.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you get your start in all this? Because obviously you worked here at with the space program.
Not really.
Really?
I was born in Morgantown, West Virginia, not by choice, I always say. But I went to 17 schools. My dad was in the service. And back in 1953, we were in Akron, Ohio. My dad was in charge of the ROTC program. He came home one
Awesome.
day and said, "We're going to Patrick Air Force Base." I said, "Where's that?" And he said, "Cocoa Beach." I said,
Oh.
"Where's Cocoa Beach?"
Oh.
He said, "In Florida." I said, "What do they do?" And he said, "They launch missiles."
Wow.
What was my question? What is a missile?
Missile.
We moved here. Every day, my dad would bring a picture home for me from public affairs of a launch, and I just got very excited in the missile program.
How do you not? As a kid seeing that? I mean, I think wow, Dad, take me.
I get
And
excited
I-
now.
Right?
I lived at Patrick and had to go to Cocoa, which was 15 miles away to school.
And what a view you had at Patrick, too, right? Right there on the beach.
I lived right there, just north of the Officers Club. There's a picnic ground. I lived in the Banana River, right across from the picnic
Man.
ground.
So
I
you,
mean,
you
that's a good, really, if you're going to stay here and on Florida Space Coast and you're in the military, you have the river on in your backyard, and then you got the ocean in your front yard.
It doesn't get
It's
much better.
amazing.
Water skied across that river
Amazing.
So you come from West, and I believe it's West by God, Virginia is how they
West
say
by
it.
God, right.
That's right. So you came from West by God, Virginia, and you end up in Florida right here on the beach. It's like, all right, I'm sitting okay. This will work.
We've
I
heard,
graduated-
we have heard, just to let you know, we have heard from a lot of West Virginia people who listen to the podcast. So for them, I'm just going to say, here's your hometown guy.
That's it.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Representing.
I'm sorry, you were saying.
So I
Yeah.
graduated from Cocoa High School.
Yeah.
And after I graduated, I worked at the Cape every summer, one for Pan American, one for RCA, Director of Range Development. Then when I graduated from VMI as an electrical engineer, I came to work for Boeing here on the Minuteman at Launch Complex 31. 3 months later, Uncle Sam said, "It's time to go in the Air Force." So he pulled me out, and that was the only work I had here at the Cape. So I went to Cheyenne, Wyoming, underground missile site, a missile combat crew commander for 4 years, underground missile site. Then I went to Vandenberg and launched 31 satellites, the Air Force test conductor.
Wow.
Then I went to Rochester, New York. and
Rochester.
Worked at Eastman Kodak, which was all classified. I couldn't tell my neighbors where I worked
Really?
from a security standpoint.
So what
were
did you
they-
tell them?
yeah.
What was your cover?
I was a
Garbage
Air
man.
Force representative that covered all New York, northern New York State.
But what was Eastman Kodak doing that was so private?
They were building photo reconnaissance satellites.
Spy
Wow.
satellites.
Oh, spies.
Spy satellites.
Were you one of those? I had a neighbor growing up, at Mr. Foggett. He was awesome. But whenever you got a camera to take a picture, he would run. He did not want to be photographed. And we're like, man, is he CIA or something? Like, were you one of those where if somebody tried to take a picture, you were like, nope, do not photograph?
People said they're going to follow me to work, and that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, basically, I was buying photo reconnaissance satellites, monitoring the building and buying them off, shipping them to Vandenberg, and they launched them. Then when the film bucket came back with the film, I was the first one to look at it after it was processed.
Gotcha.
So I did that for 3 years, and I moved to D.C. and Washington, D.C., and I was there for 27 years.
Wow.
I was at the Pentagon, Andrews, CIA, NSA. My final assignment was the Office of Secretary of Defense, and I was going to Geneva, Switzerland to negotiate SALT, Strategic Arm Limitation Treaty. So I went once in the spring and once in the fall, anywhere from 12 to 19 weeks.
You got a gem over here.
Then I
Boy,
came back
yeah.
and retired and went to work as a contractor for 12 years, a company called Answer, which was a not-for-profit organization. And finally, in 1998, my dad got very sick down here, so I retired and came back to take care of him. He passed away 6 months later. He was 92, so he had a great life. So I live in his house in Satellite Beach.
Very nice.
And in 2002, I became a volunteer.
When's
man.
when's the movie coming out about you?
Right, exactly,
really.
right?
When's that?
I mean, yeah, wow. And thank you for your service, first of all. And
So basically, I became a volunteer, and I worked for Jamie at the museum and the History Center. I also work for Public Affairs as a volunteer. I escort the media into all the launches at the Cape.
You know, something I got to commend you with, and you see this a lot, but it seems like it's so much more here on the Space Coast with any of our museums and centers and whatnot. Our volunteers and the people that walk you around, they are so passionate. It's not like they're just, I mean, I know
Right.
they're volunteering, you would think, but
Right.
no, man. You come in with a wealth of knowledge, and you have so much experience, and that just, I think it makes it for the guests such a better experience.
Well, the reason I got started in that is because I got very interested, taking people to all these sites, and I saw all these launches, so I went some pictures of them, and I found out nobody had them.
Wow.
So that's why I'm doing the Cape and Vandenberg, trying to get a picture of every launch, and they'll be given to the government.
That's awesome.
I'm not going to sell them. I'm not going to give them to anybody. They're going to the government for them to do whatever they want to. So that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years, trying to get a picture of every launch on the Cape.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, here we are located in this beautiful center. So let's talk about, and it's free to the public. It's
right.
free.
Free is the
And
price for me.
And it was raining when we came in today. It was a little rainy. And this is a great rainy day activity for somebody. When you're here on Florida Space Coast, yeah, you're going to go to the beach. Yeah, you're going to go to a lot of, different things that are held outside. But, we try to tell our people too, hey, if it's raining and you have no place to go, and you're thinking about what to do, we have a lot of locations that are inside. And this is a perfect destination. So, Jamie, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you can see here?
Yeah, this is the place to go. I mean, this free admission, six days a week, all kinds of opportunities to absorb all of this amazing Cape history. And it's not just the rainy days; it's the sunny days. It gets sweltering.
Oh, yeah.
here on
Yes,
the Space
you're right.
Doesn't it, though?
And we've got some nice AC in here. But
So nice.
there's just around us, you can see we've got an Atlas booster engine right behind.
I know, this
thing is so
Okay,
cool.
that's what that is?
Yeah.
That is an Atlas. And you see the photos on the wall behind it. Those are samples of some of the earliest Atlas ICBM and space lift launches that occurred here on the Cape. Behind you, there's a Mercury boilerplate capsule. So it's a training capsule. And you see photos behind it of Alan Shepard and Gus Grissom, our first astronauts into space aboard the Mercury program. There's a little bit of everything. There's even a fragment of a Juno 2 that exploded just off the pad. So
wow.
when you talk 8,000 historic launches from the Cape, not all of them were successful. This was a missile test range initially, and it morphed into a spaceport over time. So there was a lot of trial and error and issues like that where explosions took place, and I'm sure a lot of the locals got an eyeful or
Yes.
earful
I
of
remember that. I grew up here on the Space Coast,
Yeah.
and I remember those days a lot.
So yeah, we're trying to reach out more to the community, to family groups, youth groups, school groups, partners in education, PI coordinators, things like that, to get more people in here. We have activities like scavenger hunts that
that'd be fun.
that kids can go around, and they love it too. They go around, they're looking for this image, that image, crossing them off on the scavenger hunt. There's trivia opportunities too, as little handouts.
Oh, it took my job.
So yeah,
That's right.
He took your what?
Took my
Job.
job.
yeah,
You guys had-
anything we could do to just kind of make or allow people to interact with the content, because you could come in, you could look at it, you could experience some things, but that interaction is really
Yes.
key, and that's where John and our other volunteer docents really come into play. They provide a lot of that interactivity. They give tours to visitors out here upon request, or they offer it, or they hang out for Q&A. And there's a lot to take in here.
There is
Oh,
a
man.
lot, and I like how on a lot of the pictures underneath you have fun facts.
Yes.
So, and they're easy to read, but they're very interesting as well. Things that maybe the average person would not know. John, let me ask you this. And we had last week we had a group of senior citizens come in from the Clearwater area, and they came in here to they were on a mystery tour. They had no idea where they were going. They boarded the bus in Clearwater and wound up here at the Sand Center. And one of the docents was here that helped give out information. And so my question is, when you do this all the time, what is one of the many questions? What is one of the major questions that's always asked of you?
Well, a lot of questions, they think a lot of the rockets coming from Kennedy Space Center. And that's one of the major things that we try to educate them. When we talk about 8,000 rockets, we're talking from the Cape versus 180 some from Kennedy Space Center. And people
Exactly.
think this is all Kennedy Space Center.
Right,
So
right.
that's one of the major questions that we try to get across. There's two separate facilities, two different organizations. And
That's a good point.
the other thing is, why so many sites? Why so many launch complexes?
That's a good
Because
question.
we had different missiles, different requirements, different valves, different fuels. Everything was different. So each one was built for a specific system.
See, you don't think about that, because I myself,
Right.
I've kind of wondered that from times and just kind of got away from it. But yeah, you're right. Everything was built for a specific model or something different. And because we have, again, what's the number of them? We have a lot of launch pads, right?
North of 30.
Yeah,
They go up to 47 in the presentation, but not every number designation was a built
Right.
complex. So we try to point that out too. But yeah, that's a big difference, KSC, Kennedy Space Center versus Cape Canaveral. Now, I came down here from Michigan and with none of that aerospace background, so I have the luxury of coming in with like kind of an outsider perspective. I didn't know any of this. You think of space launches, you think of Kennedy Space Center
Right.
on Florida Space Coast. But the Cape Canaveral story has been neglected over time for many reasons. One in which it's a military spaceport. They were testing top secret military munitions
That's cool.
and missile systems, so they didn't want to draw a lot of attention to it. But today it's one of the world's busiest spaceports. It's the world's premier gateway to space. So we're trying to uncover some of that history and collaborate with KSC over time, where they could present a lot of the civilian space program history. We, on the other hand, can provide information on more of the military side, military missile testing, military space payloads. There's a whole constellations of satellites up there that launched from right here in Cape Canaveral.
So
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The Mercury programs were all done from the Cape. The Gemini programs were all done from Launch Complex 19 on the Cape. As far as the Apollo program, there was one manned Apollo launch from the Cape, and everything else went to Kennedy. So the early manned space program was done at the Cape, not at Kennedy.
Wow. Again, history.
And the other big question we get is they look around the room and you says active pads, 3 active pads. That is true from the standpoint of launching the Delta, the Falcon, and the Atlas.
Okay.
But a lot of the other pads are being modified for new programs.
Gotcha.
So, Jamie, what is that? What's that going on?
Oh, so that in the background is a military announcement. It's a weather notice, and that's kind of part of the ambiance of being on a military installation. We'll get those interruptions from time to time.
That's cool, though, man.
Yeah, so
If you guys weren't listening, they said Chipotle will be delivering at 12:30.
Chipotle at 11:30, 100 hours.
That is very critical because the weather strikes, the lightnings, and everything has a bearing on the test that you're doing at the pad.
Right.
So when you hear a lightning thing, you don't do certain tests on the pad. So it's very critical from a safety standpoint here in the Cape.
It
Well,
is. We're in one of the
yeah.
lightning capitals of
Yeah.
the world, and we launch rockets. Those rockets are tall. They're sitting out on pads. So
Yeah.
you'll see those active pads. The rocket is flanked with lightning arresters, and you'll see them in some of the
Really?
photos here. And they're meant to absorb any strikes and prevent the rocket from getting struck. Because think of a rocket. It's a pretty explosive
And
tube
expensive.
of fuel.
Antenna.
Yeah. So how effective are those lightning absorbers?
I would guess very effective. I can't speak to the specifics of
Right.
those. I'm more the history side
Right.
rather than the current operations. But
That's
yeah,
pretty
they're
cool.
out there.
You know,
Wow.
you talk to a lot of visitors and they go, you know, I've gone out to several launches and doggone it, it got scrubbed. And how many times did it get scrubbed? And they, you know, they kind of complain about it, but they don't understand. Well, when they get explained, it's, again, safety is the number one thing.
Yes.
And just like you said, if the weather's not right, if the conditions aren't just perfect, it's not going to go.
I mean, we're not going out on a canoe here. We're
Yeah.
launching a rocket.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
There's a lot that
Yes,
goes to it.
And the museum is part of Space Launch Delta 45 in the Space Force. And this Delta used to be the 45th Space Wing. And their main mission is public safety.
Right.
And that's where you have range safety and all of that along the Eastern Range. They support all the launches off KSC and the Cape to ensure none of these rockets veer off course and hit Orlando or something like that.
That's a good thing you're doing.
And you think it's pretty
Thank
common
you.
sense, but not all countries utilize range safety. So it's
Wow.
kind of unique to us.
Yeah, the range also has to make sure there's no aircraft in the area.
Yeah, I think that's also
No
important.
ships are in the area.
Right.
So everything has to be cleared. The weather is good before they will give approval for a launch here on the range.
Think about that. How many things have to go right?
And they're told, if you're in a boat or whatever, they're told you can't go inside this area. Many times somebody in a boat will go past there and all of a sudden the launch is delayed because of this boater. And
Are you serious?
I hope they get fined or something because
Wow.
it's very noticeable. It tells you don't go past here. And,
And
you
it's
know,
all based on precedent. It's all based
Yeah.
on history. That's the history that we
Right.
preserve here, the Eastern Range, all the tracking stations, the weather rockets, everything to ensure the main space launches go off without a hitch. And there are a lot of moving parts to this day.
I'll tell you, it is pretty cool, though, watching a launch from a boat. I've been out fishing in Titusville and seeing the launch go off. I'm like, wow, look at this. You're practically right underneath it, you know?
Jamie and John, I want to ask you guys a very serious question here.
uh-oh.
You guys, you've been here a very long time, and you're new to this. Tell me about the aliens. Where they're at? Where's their exhibit? Is that a spaceship? What's going on here? Tell me. Did they tell you anything? Top secret that's declassified now? Because okay, I know I'm joking, right? But
I might have to defer to John on this. He has more experience.
do you know anything? Have you seen anything? Anything? Give me something.
We
Give me the goods.
We
That's
get,
a good question. I like that one.
We do get the occasional phone calls on, alien autopsies and what facilities were used for UFOs, things like that. I joke that the sector that the museum is at is called Area 52, so we've got one up on Area 51.
I like it.
But no, I've experienced no alien activity on the Cape.
Well, maybe he is an alien. We don't know.
Well, yeah, it could be.
John has been very quiet.
Yeah, I was going to say, John,
Well,
you're right.
I don't know anything.
You don't know?
You see that laugh?
That's right. I see it in his eyes. That's okay. We don't want to push
We won't
him.
blow your cover.
That's right.
Government
He's one
response should
of
be
the men in black.
Okay.
there
Okay.
should be no comment, right? That's our government response.
Wow. Well, that's a lot of information I didn't know, but I think it's time that we learn 3 things that we didn't know about the two of you guys.
Oh.
And obviously the Sands Center here. So
3 things you need to know, brought to you by Beachside Hotel and Suites. Cocoa
Beachside
Beach.
Hotel and Suites in Cocoa Beach. Sales Director Michelle Martindale tells us that they've got a busy weekend set up this weekend, and they're hoping that you'll stop by and go down the lazy river that goes the entire length of the hotel, and everything that you need for your beach supplies is right there, free for you, including bikes.
Oh, everything, man. They got
Everything.
the buggies, they got boogie boards, they got everything. And now that football is back, you can watch football on the screens, you can hang
At
out
the
in the
duck
pool.
dive, you got that. I was there yesterday, and the carriage that they have with all the goodies in it was outside. As this family was getting ready to go toward the beach, and they were filling it up. And I was looking at everything that was in there. It was really, and they just carry it right. You just wheel it right on down to the beach.
Right there.
It's right.
And they
It's all
give
free.
you everything. Beautiful lobby, too. They got a lot of comfortable places in there. You can hang out if you want to get in the air conditioning or whatnot. But if you're a family person like myself, I got 2 kids, beautiful wife, you definitely want to go check out Beachside Hotel and Suites. They did a huge remodel.
Pizza.
Oh my gosh, we got a pizza there. You're right, man. We had a pizza there. One of our podcasts we did several weeks back, and it was amazing.
It was a good pizza.
We coulda ate-
Beachside Hotel, CocoBeach.com, and you go there and look at the pictures. I'd love for you to look at those pictures and see the colors that are there look amazing. And at night when the lights are on, it's just fantastic. And just laze around on that lazy river, have yourself a drink, go to the duck dive, call over there and find out the special rate going on. And it's a great place to watch a launch. All you got to do is walk down to the beach and watch when a launch goes off. In fact, we have a launch tomorrow.
We do.
3:00 in the morning. So yeah, we have another launch. So it's all good.
3 things.
Yes,
Let's,
3 things.
I know this is a hard-hitting question, so let's start with you, Jamie.
All right.
All right.
So 3 things about me
Or the Sand Center. So.
or the Sand Center.
Yeah.
Well,
Or you is fine.
how
Either
about
or.
I do 2 about me and 1 about the Sands?
Okay,
I'll be a
sounds
little
good.
selfish.
There you
So,
go.
All right.
That's the place to do it.
Let's see. I enjoy cycling, street cycling.
Street cycling,
I've got a
all right.
hand-me-down bike, and I do the whole, spandex mafia look and
Oh boy.
everything.
Oh, boy.
Spandex
Oh
Mafia.
yeah, and I hit
I've
the
never heard
trails. I hit the trails, hit the roads, and try to get 10, 20, up to 63 miles on the ride. So,
Huh?
Yeah.
I don't like driving 63
Keeps
miles.
me in shape. But,
Wow, man.
So I think a 63 mile is considered a century, and a metric century is 100 miles. So I've done a few of the centuries. I haven't done anything competitive, but
Good for you.
drawing, since I was a kid, I've enjoyed drawing. And when I was in school, I won some art competitions, so I was pretty decent at
Do you
it.
do landscapes or people?
More nature.
Okay.
Since I moved down here, I did something recently where I was using different color Sharpies to draw some intricate sea life on some shells I gathered from the Outer Banks.
Look at
so
you, man.
I get a little ADD and random with it, but it's a fun stress relief.
I can draw a pretty mean stick figure, just so you know.
Nice. And then, let's see, one for the History Center. I will share with you my favorite artifact in this space. So we've got a lot of key restorations on display highlighting the history of the Cape. But in the far corner, there's a re-entry vehicle. It's a nose cone from a Jupiter missile. And that thing is incredibly significant. We didn't discover its significance until last summer. It's been here for decades.
Okay.
It stood outside of a local college, I think painted black, and students climbed on it for generations. Then it came to the museum. The museum restored it, I believe, in the early 2000s and put it on display here when this facility opened. It is the first full-size re-entry vehicle to go into space, return, and to be tested. And it basically proved the viability of ablative heat shields. So we're talking May 1958. This is a couple months before NASA even existed. We were launching things into space. So Smithsonian has the first 1/3 scale Jupiter nose cone to go into space and return, because that was given to President Eisenhower. We have the first full scale. And it took some detective work to uncover that. It was here the whole time. Nobody really knew the history of
And
it.
think about it. This thing was covered. It was painted black. Kids were just climbing on it. Like,
Yeah.
nobody knew. You guys are on history right now. That's
Nobody knew it. And we have several specimens like that in the collection that stood as landmarks outside schools, outside of municipal buildings, were restored, brought to the museum, put on display. Nobody really researched it until recent years. So it shows how dynamic the history is here.
Right.
It's not static. We're always discovering new things, and it changes the narrative. It changes the history. and it makes it super cool for us
Yeah.
museum geeks. You know.
Well, yeah, it's another thing for John to be able to tell the people when they're asking their questions, right, John?
Oh, yes.
All right, John, it's your turn.
Okay, I guess I would start. We have a landing strip here on the Cape. A lot of people did not realize.
Yeah, no.
Everybody think of the shuttle landing strip, which is over at Kennedy,
Right.
which is 15,000 feet long. We have one over here, which is 10,000 feet long.
Okay.
We call it the skid strip because we supply the Snark missile from Launch Complex 1 and 2 down to Antigua. They turn around and come back and land it. And just before they land, they put skids out, and they skid it down the runway.
Ah, neat.
And so that's why it's called the skid strip. I know it's 10,000 feet long because in 1956, when I was working for Pan American, I had to measure it with 100-foot tape.
Are you serious?
Oh, boy.
It took us 2.5 days.
Oh, my
We
gosh.
had a metal tape, and we had to make sure the temperature of the metal tape was taken in for the expansion of
right.
it. And
Wow.
the temperatures range from, I guess, about 102 to about 106 on that skid
my
strip
gosh.
in the middle of summer. So that's why it took that many days.
Wow.
So it's utilized now. The skid strip is utilized now.
It's used right now. They
Yes.
bring in payloads. They bring in rockets with the C-17 and sometimes the C-5. And a lot of, we used to have drones that would fly off of there, but they moved back to Jacksonville.
Do you ever give tours? Does anyone ever get tours of that and be able to see it?
When I take tours through the Cape, we go by up the Phillips Parkway, and I pointed it out.
That's neat.
And when we go up by the lighthouse, you can see the end of it.
Cool.
And you can see the skid strip. So that's one interesting point. And I guess my second interesting point, we bring rockets back and land here in the Cape that a lot of people don't realize, and that's the Falcon 9.
Right.
So you either land on a drone ship 200 miles downrange, or you come back and land at Launch Complex 13, which is called Landing Zone 1.
Man.
So it's very interesting. I was on top of the Expedition Tower over here, and when the first one went up, and I saw it come down, so I took a picture up through the rafters. It looked like it was coming right down
Oh, my
toward
gosh.
us.
Yeah.
And it landed on this
that
launch
cool?
complex.
It's amazing.
So that's a very interesting thing. A lot of people don't realize we land rockets back on the Cape.
Did you ever think in your lifetime, you've been looking at this stuff for years, did you ever think that, we'd ever be able to re-land these things? Like, that's huge.
Well, I guess I never thought of that because the cost of doing that is pretty high to get started.
Right.
Because
Right.
you have to build a facility, you have to have a navigation system, you have to have a pellet on the rocket to bring it back here.
It's incredible.
Versus landing on the ship.
Yeah.
And when you have a ship, you have to pay for the ships
Yeah. Yeah.
on the East Coast and West Coast. So I guess back in the early days, it really wasn't feasible.
Right.
And plus, this was the R&D center for the rockets.
Gotcha.
All the ballistic missiles were tested here. Then when they became operational, everything moved out to Vandenberg, and that's where they do the crew training of the people. So that's some of my interesting facts.
Cool. Very good, man.
Wow, understatement is saying interesting. Those are, wow, those
Right.
are those are major. Well, so you guys talked about a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't know, and thank you guys for sharing all that. But I think it's time I get to stump everybody.
Oh, boy, here we go.
We play some Space Coast trivia.
I've been out of the loop on this one for a while.
All right. So, what Space Coast trivia is essentially trivia.
Trivia.
And so I try to theme all of our Space Coast trivia games to deal with what we're doing. But after last week's massacre of Bonnie and Wayne, they
Did
got
you
killed.
hear that, John?
Yeah, I saw it.
I had to switch it up a bit, so I had to make it a little more difficult for you guys because I can't just do space stuff because
Yeah, we'll
you
get
guys are
massacred,
You guys
dude.
are gonna sweep them.
I love a challenge.
So today's Space Coast trivia involves the planets.
Oh.
Okay, the planets.
Planets. Okay. Oh, boy.
All right.
Yeah.
So
We need to
so-
start consulting these trivia games before.
Yeah.
all right, and I actually have a scoreboard on the screen. So if you guys are watching the stream, you can see the scoreboard right there. We got Team Bonnie and John versus
all you, Bonnie.
Team
Oh, man.
Jamie and John. All right. So the rules are, if you know the answer, say your name first, okay? Don't blurt the answer out. Just say your name, and then I'll give you the floor, okay?
I'll say my first initial, so we don't have two Johns going
We
there.
got 3 J's here, though.
That's right.
All right. First question. Which planet has the most moons?
Jamie.
Jamie.
I think
You want me to give you multiple choice?
maybe easier.
Okay, I'll give you guys multiple choice. Is it Saturn? Is it Mercury or Venus?
oh shoot.
Bonnie.
Bonnie. well, James.
Yeah,
I
I
gotta
know,
give him
yeah.
the floor.
I was actually thinking Jupiter, but now I'm leaning towards Saturn.
You are correct.
That's what I was going to say.
I was going to say that too. Right?
All right. Question number 2. Which planets have no moons?
Multiple choice. Let's keep that thing going here.
Well, there's only 2.
Bonnie.
Bonnie.
Neptune.
That is incorrect.
Oh.
You guys want to steal? There's 2. So any one of them. Any one of them. Neptune is obviously is not Earth.
Bonnie Pluto.
I need to work on my astronomy here.
Right.
I know, this isn't good.
It's okay.
All right.
I was going to guess Pluto, but Pluto was declassified.
yeah, Pluto's not a planet anymore.
It's not a planet.
We still consider it.
So you're thinking, John, you're thinking Mercury?
Yes, it is.
Oh, you vey.
So the other one is Venus. All right.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
This is too hard.
I had to make
This
it
is
hard.
too
I had
hard.
to make it harder because last week. I mean,
Less hard next time.
okay. All right. What planet is the closest size to Earth?
What planet is
Jamie.
Jamie?
Mars.
That is incorrect. Close.
Jay. Saturn?
Wrong.
No, wait.
It is Venus. Venus.
I haven't measured lately, so I don't know.
All right. Here is a space question. So you guys might get that one. Okay. How many miles does it take to actually get to space? There's a threshold that you have to cross. They've been saying it all over.
Bonnie.
International or
The
U.S.?
the Kármán line, right?
No, I think it's 50,000.
Miles.
50,000 miles.
Much less.
I'm thinking 60 miles.
65.
Or, yeah, 65 is
It's
the
62.
Kármán
So
line, right?
it's 62.
Yeah.
See, we're close.
All right,
No, I don't like this game.
Yeah, give them the game. They won.
Yeah,
Good job,
I'm
guys.
just going to tell you. I'm just going to tell you in the future, make it so that the answers are easy for our guests, so that we can let the guests win. And I don't mind if we look bad, but when we all can't answer it, it's just not fun.
Oh, okay,
You know,
fine.
what can I say?
All right.
All right. Well,
Well-
the Space Coast Trivia brought to you by Longboard's Tiki Beach Grill. Longboard's Tiki Beach Grill is located in Cocoa Beach, another fabulous location. This weekend, their live music starts today. They got a whole
Yes, it
lineup of
does.
music Friday through Sunday. And again, let me tell you, their food is top notch.
And that's where we're going for lunch after this, under their big thatched roof that they have on their bar area.
Heck yeah, they
Very, very nice.
They've got two kind of
One right out on the beach. Absolutely. Have a little tiki bar right out by the beach. And you can actually sit there and just watch everybody have a good time as they're sunning out there and having a good time.
They too have the
You
TVs.
buying?
And
That's right. Bonnie's
absolutely,
buying.
Yeah.
They too
We're-
have TV screens. You can watch the football, whatever
Yes,
that
you
you're looking
can.
for. It's a great ambiance. And when you're at the beach all day and you come off the beach, what a great, as soon as you get off the beach, you're right here at a bar with restaurant and food and great ambiance. It doesn't get much better than the
Right,
Longboard Tiki Beach Grill.
absolutely, and the pool is located right there next to these beautiful couches that they have with the fire pits that are right there, and you can have a drink and enjoy the ambiance of what it's all about. And we encourage everybody, when you're here on Cocoa Beach, stop by there and say hi and have something good food, good drink, great friends. It's all good.
It's a good setup, that's for
And
sure.
that is the longboardstiki.com. If you want to look and see their pictures, they're really great. It's all good. So let's talk. You know what's really cool that I know you get a lot of people talking about too is your the old desk, launch desk,
Yeah, the console.
the console. Thank you very much. Those sometimes those words go right in my head.
That's it.
But so tell us about that.
Well, you want to talk where it came from?
Oh, sure,
Came from
yeah.
Launch Complex
Okay.
19. But
Yep, Launch Complex 19, so one of the 30-plus historic launch complexes out here. It's a Gemini test council, so as part of the Gemini program, all 10 crewed Gemini missions launch from Complex 19 on Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. And So when we talk launch complex, usually there's a blockhouse involved, and that blockhouse is launch control, and that's where you see sometimes a smoky room because everybody was smoking back then, and the consoles, they actually had ashtrays built into the consoles.
Really?
And
That's dedication right
Isn't
there.
it?
and so you would have this whole array of consoles depending on the type of blockhouse, and all kinds of different technicians working them. If it's an Air Force launch, sometimes there's some uniformed personnel, but you're talking mainly the contractors, I think, McDonald and North American Aviation, what have you, or Convair. And they're flipping the switches. They're keeping an eye on the lights. It's a precursor to today's, touch screen computer screens that they probably use. And they go through the sequences, the countdowns, and that's what really makes that a great piece of history, because displayed with it is a photograph of how it looked when we received it. And so it's gone through some significant restorations, and we still have some volunteers that tinker with it to enhance the operability of it all. And so that's a great piece of history to bring out the story of the ground crews, because you've got all these different people involved in launches out here. You've got payload guys, satellite guys, the ground crews, the pad rats, as they call them. I mean,
Pad rats, I like that.
so much fun history. And so it's not all just engines and capsules. There's so much support equipment that goes along with all of this sophisticated rocket science.
Are you allowed to pick up the phone like you're calling in? Yeah. That thing's awesome. I was checking out
it's an old school rotary phone.
But can you imagine? I mean, years ago, that held a lot of information, and now today, it probably can be condensed into a disc.
An iPad.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
An iPad.
You're just sitting, exactly. You're doing a launch from that. But it's just amazing the technological advances that have happened since the beginning. And you can see that all here. You also can see it, obviously, when you go to the Kennedy Space Center and you see their visitor complex, and the Air Force Museum that we have in Titusville also has one of the consoles and also has the history. So, and I love how you all work together to promote each other as well.
Well, one interesting thing, we do not use blockhouses anymore. We use launch control centers that could be across the United States. Or, for example, SpaceX has their launch control center right here.
Yep.
And the launch pad is 10 miles from here.
I know. I thought that was really
That's
cool. I said,
something,
man, I always pictured it to be like,
So-
I thought it'd be right on top of it. But yeah.
So that's one interesting thing that has transpired over the years because of our technology that we didn't have back in the early days.
Yes.
Like at our museum, our blockhouse is only 400 feet from the launch pad because we had copper wiring run into it. If you had a greater distance, the signal would degrade where you wouldn't be able to get the true reading.
Gotcha.
So we had to build them so close. Today, we don't need to do that because we have the technology that we didn't have back in the 50s and 60s.
That was real dangerous, though, wasn't it, to have the blockhouse 400 feet away or whatever?
Well,
what
that's
happened?
why you're in a heavy blockhouse.
Yeah.
You know, you take a look at the blockhouse on 19, it's some 10, 15 feet thick.
And the technology we're getting is because
And
we're doing all
we
these
didn't have
launches.
windows in it. So right,
Right.
next to the, up there is something called a periscope. I have a lot of questions. Why do you have a submarine periscope here? Because that's how you could see something down at the pad. So our big blockhouses
wow.
were solid concrete. We had 4 periscopes sticking through the ceiling. So if an engineer wanted to see something during a countdown, he would walk over that periscope, turn it, tune into it, and he could see. That's before we had before we had good closed circuit TV.
See?
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it really is.
Great.
Come a long way.
What about can you share any stories that you share with volunteers about background on astronauts, or any interesting stories that you might want to share with us? Yes.
I was never really in the astronaut program, so I'm not a good person to speak on the astronaut. I was more in the military side. But I thought one of the interesting things that I did, I climbed to the top of the lighthouse at 3 o'clock in the morning and watched the launch from our museum
Wow. See, that'd be
back
cool.
in 1956. I thought that was unique.
Yeah. You can't. There's not too many people.
But I
so-
couldn't bring cameras on the Cape at that time. So from a security standpoint, you could not bring cameras on the Cape. As today, you can take cameras and take pictures of the museum area and different places.
How far away were you from that launch site back then?
I was probably about 4 miles.
Okay, yeah, because I think they want you 3 miles away or something when a launch goes now.
It varies on the booster.
But that would have, can you imagine the pictures that you could have got from that?
Yeah, buddy.
That's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, 151 feet in the air,
Yeah.
looking down at it.
Yep. Speaking of that lighthouse, we're going to be going out there probably in a couple of weeks and,
That's exciting.
and doing a podcast
We
from
only
the
have the
lighthouse.
only military lighthouse
There
in
you
the
go.
world here.
Yeah, that lighthouse is the only one owned and operated by the U.S. Space Force.
Wow.
And it's right next to one of our facilities, Hangar C. That's where we display our indoor rocket garden. So we've got a lot of other assets besides this building, but they're behind the gates on a military spaceport. Access is one of our biggest challenges.
Yes, it's a challenge, but it can be done.
Yes.
There is a company, Canaveral Tours, that can take some people out there. And so we'll be talking about that as well. But you're right. We are lucky right now. We're in an area that we don't have to have we're not badged or anything. We're free access. But if you walk out your front door, turn to the right, there's the gate. Can't go past there.
And let's not forget, you guys have a really cool gift shop in here
Yes,
too.
the
Really
gift
cool
shop is very
merchandise. They
cool.
got shirts, they got books, they've got pins. You got to come check it out. So again, this is a great gym. We got some families in here right now checking some things out. And yeah, this is definitely and so close to the gate. I mean, this doesn't get more real than that, right?
Yeah, technically we are on the Cape. We're just
Yeah.
outside the gate. And the gift shop is phenomenal. Our museum foundation operates that. And so the merchandise, they do a top-notch job selecting the merchandise. You'll find a lot of Space Force goodies on there. And all of those sales go to supporting the museum through the foundation. It's kind of a public-private partnership we have.
Awesome.
Very nice. Yeah, it's a great place. When it says gift shop, it's a great place to buy gifts. Let me just tell you. You know, I know if you like space, you can buy it for yourself, but it's a great opportunity to buy gifts for people, for your friends and family that are very interested in space.
And if you can't make it out here, it's on our website, afspacemuseum.com.
Great.
And there's a lot of online sales that the foundation handles. And the website was just redone last year, the afspacemuseum.org. Sorry if I said .com.
Yeah.
But afspacemuseum.org, we revamped the website last year, and that was through foundation support. So it's mobile friendly, it's up to date. And because of John's research and others, there's like over 18,000 hyperlinks on that site. So it's a compendium of knowledge. You could search it. There's a Google search bar. If you're interested in Navajo missile systems, Atlas, space lift boosters, you can find tons of resources on there and all kinds of information on our facilities.
Now, the other thing also, there's a museum that you have that is right behind the gates.
Yes.
That's much like this, but probably more. Correct?
It's similar. It's Launch Complex 26, and it was a launch complex. Yeah, we feature it over there in the corner. And there used to be a world-class rocket garden displayed on the grounds that would attract over 1 million visitors a year back in the 70s.
Just like the rocket out front here.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a cool rocket too.
And it was an active launch complex in the late 50s, early 60s. It was deactivated in 63 and set aside as a space museum. And that's how we preserve the blockhouse, the original consoles, the firing rooms. We've got just one-of-a-kind, exceptionally rare artifacts on display out there. And they are part of the Canaveral Tours outings onto the Cape, but also when KSC resumes their bus tours, they will be out there at least 5 or 6 times a week. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that they can resume.
That would be
those in
great
the near
because
future.
people love to see that.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
because-
when you're behind the gates, it's not, not everybody, you just can't walk and go behind the gate. You got to be escorted and you got to be
Yeah.
cleared. And so, but it's an exciting tour, and we're going to be talking about that because we'll have Canaveral Tours with us when we do our podcast from the lighthouse.
And we have a museum volunteer there all the time.
Great.
Who helps
Yeah.
do these tours to support Jamie and his operation.
We love our volunteers on the Space
We
Coast,
love
don't
that. And I know that there's a great picture there of Barbara Eden when she went and visited the museum.
Yes.
And Barbara Eden is coming back. I don't know if you both know that she's coming
I
back
heard
here
that.
in
For the race.
February. Yeah, so she'll be here in February for the I Dream of Jeannie Marathon that's being held in Melbourne area. And so we're excited about that because she hasn't been here. Last time she was here, she was 83. And she will be 90 when she comes back to visit us. So we're looking forward to having her here. And we thank you guys for taking care of us today, really. This has been great. Great education for all of us. I've learned a few things, I
Absolutely.
must say.
Absolutely.
Especially about planets. Thank you very much, Phil.
Oh boy, he's in trouble.
Man, I'll tell you, you are in trouble. You know?
It was all a ploy because there was a Uranus joke in there, but I didn't get to it.
No.
Oh,
no,
man,
no.
yeah. He's a bad boy. He's a bad boy. But really, thank you both for everything that you do and for being part of this and being passionate about what you do. That's what's so much fun in talking to you all as well.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
We
yes.
appreciate that. And, you know, I wanted to mention something, John, to you about the info at spacecoastfunguide.com. Getting a lot of reaction to regarding the map that's inside.
Yes.
And we encourage you, if you just call us or write to info at spacecoastfunguide.com and just say you're interested as a fulfillment piece, you get the Space Coast Fun Guide brochure, and in there's this fabulous map.
Yes.
Getting a lot of good comments on the map.
We're very proud of that map. It's very widely used by the hotels and major accommodations throughout the county. It's got a lot of detail. So, you know, if you're trying to find your way around, you're not going to find a better map than the Space Coast Fun Guide for sure. And definitely the publication, you'll get your coupons to major, you know, the restaurants and attractions, but there's also a wealth of knowledge in there and tourist information. So
Absolutely.
pick up the Space Coast Fun Guide. You can get it online. You can request one or pick it up at any major accommodation or attraction within Space Coast. So yes, good point there, Bob.
Absolutely. And so now next week, we're going to be on location at the Brevard Zoo. Our guests are going to be the director of the Brevard Zoo, which is Keith Winston, and his marketing director, Andrea Hill. Awesome. And talking to us not only about the animals, but also we'll talk about the wildlife conservation that they do. They're very, very involved with that.
Are they going to bring a sloth in for us?
And
I hope?
I'm, you know what? I'm going to make sure they do because I know you love sloths.
Yes, we'll give them a mic and see what happens.
Yeah, you and your sloths. I'm going to go through that.
He can do sloth can do trivia next week.
Oh yeah. Please help us for next week when we do our trivia. But also, what's great is also going to give us a status and the update of the aquarium that they're going to be building right out here in Port Canaveral, and so we're looking forward to that because that will be a world-class, first-class museum.
It will.
A museum aquarium. It's going to be fabulous.
If you know the zoo's involved with it, it's going to be world class.
Absolutely.
No problem.
So we're looking forward to that. So again, we thank you all, and any information you have, please info at spacecoastfunguide.com, and we will see you all next week. Thank you.
Bye.